Kasich is a good and honorable man, but he has no path to winning, and John Kasich has pulled out. He's withdrawn from the state of Indiana. So let me ask the people at home, if you don't want to see Donald Trump as the nominee, if you don't want to hand the general election to Hillary Clinton on a silver platter, then I ask you to come together and unify and stand as one with us.
Ted Cruz during a rally in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Before that rally, he told reporters, quote, "There is no alliance with John Kasich." Alliance? No, Ted said. It's only they determined which states in which they would devote their resources. And you see the story on the pages of thehill.com. But now Ted Cruz, of course, has picked a running mate. So is this arrangement, alliance, agreement, is it just crumbled to dust? Well, let's bring in our panel. And from the West Coast, some might call it the left coast, Skyping in from San Diego, Democratic strategist, and the president of Run Women Run PAC, Michelle Burton. And from where all the action is this week, Skyping in from Indianapolis, former White House spokesman for President George W. Bush, Pete Seat. Pete is now senior project manager for Hathaway Strategies. Michelle, you must look on with delight as a Democrat with the way the Republicans are fighting. But I'm going to ask about your experience just in terms of strategy. Who got suckered in the alliance deal? Was it Cruz or Kasich, or did they both end up with something good here?
Well, I think that they both thought that it was going to go a lot better than it did, and when it backfired last week, then they sort of backed off. It's clear that they do have, sort of an alliance, because the whole thought is to stop Trump, and it's no secret that that's what everybody on the GOP side that doesn't like him is intending to do.
Yeah, and so they're trying to work that, and you can kind of sit back and watch and just kind of grin like a Cheshire cat. Understood. Now,
great.
Pete, you are loving life out there in San Diego. Let me get to Pete right there in Indianapolis. So what about Cruz naming Carly to the ticket? I'm just kind of curious. The stories yesterday in Indiana, big national story about Cruz naming his running mate, but then last night Bobby Knight shows up. Which is the bigger story, Knight with Trump or Cruz and Carly, Pete?
Well, don't ask a Purdue University Boilermaker. Bobby Knight's big news, because they'll tell you it's not. Having the Carly announcement here in Indiana was a big coup for the state, no doubt. But I'm going to argue this like a lawyer and say that there are people who are excited that she's on the ticket and excited about the opportunity that a woman could potentially become vice president if he's the nominee, and that they're now going to cast ballots for Ted Cruz. But there are also people, while they may be excited, they can't stomach the idea of voting for Ted Cruz. They'd rather jump off the top of Monument Circle in downtown Indianapolis than cast a vote for him because they think he's an ideological zealot, and they can't get past that.
All right. Well, I know that Michelle is sitting there listening to you talk about, wow, a woman being vice president, and Michelle's looking at the Democrat side with Hillary out front. But I'm just kind of curious with the mindset, Michelle. Do Democrats really want Donald Trump as the nominee? Do you think he's easy pickings? We got about 30 seconds.
I think that it would be easier to beat Ted Cruz in the general election because he is an ideological zealot, and a lot of Democrats really believe that. I think Trump is going to be a little bit tougher. It's going to be an interesting fight of ideas versus insults in the general election. So we're going to see if his insults can carry the day and convince people that he's fit to be president.
Well, politics ain't beanbag, is it? But it is interesting to see a very civilized discussion. Michelle Burton in San Diego, Pete Seat in Indianapolis. Pete will be watching closely next Tuesday what happens in your state. And, of course, Michelle, June 7th out in California for both parties. That's going to be something. For now, you both have our thanks.